It's a distance, right, we're a long way away here, yeah.
Yeah, that's how I feel.
That's good.
Okay, just clean up, maybe we'll do good in there.
That will be.
Yeah. Oh, okay. No, I can't imagine. Such a complicated agenda, I know.
Yeah, I say that's fine me.
Which one?
Sir?
Whenever you get a chance, no rush. Take a look at that.
Oh.
Right. Yeah, I want to go in and get out.
Okay. Okay. Okay, that one goes. Catching mistakes.
I mean, especially, you know, she was sweet.
It's a beautiful road.
I know it, I just would take it out from under my chairs. I just think
Yes, they say if we can, that's where to go. I'll make sure that good.
Okay. Yes. Right there.
Which I did.
Do I need to go to you?
I figured it'd get better sound from the speaker.
Oh, okay. We're gonna get ready to call this meeting to order. At 3:03 p.m.
Everyone, do me a favor, make sure they're speaking into the microphone so we can have good recording purposes, please.
Can you all hear us?
No, thank you.
Okay, I'll try and speak up louder then.
I mean, it's working, but it's not using the mic.
Don't pretty.
Is it working?
Hello, testing,
Yeah.
1, 2. Ah, okay now. All right. Can we, I'm gonna call this meeting to order. And I would like for Ms. Tawana to speak first, please, before we get started.
Good afternoon, everyone. As you can see at this moment, our chair, Bob Howe, he's not able to be present, but he is joining us through Microsoft Teams. So we're gonna turn him so he can see everybody present here. There you go. So this is what my job would be at this present time for Mr. Howe to see everyone. So in the past, normally what we have done if our chair is not able to be physically present, we have usually, due to a medical condition, he felt like it would be impractical for him to be here. And so what we did is we set up the teams for him to participate. I am asking the board members that the secretary will act as a temporary chair for this meeting in his absence. And I'm inviting the members to offer a motion and a second, and to discuss the matter and to vote on the temporary chair if all possible.
I move that we have the secretary act as the temporary chairman today.
Second.
And we got a second from Ms., a first from Marty Carpenter and a second from Ms. Adams. Okay, so. Okay, so now Ms. Tony will be the acting chair for this meeting.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
We need to call for a vote.
Oh, it just went out.
May I call for a vote? Because hers just went up.
Go ahead, I'm gonna get him back up.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Are there any nays? It passes. All right. Thank you. I'm gonna wait for you to try to get me back. Is that okay?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, just, yeah, it got disconnected, so we're trying to get him back on so he can hear the meeting.
Okay, I have him on my phone right now. Sir, I'm gonna put, somehow the laptop crashed, but I do have you still with us. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Okay. So do you want to repeat that motion so you be aware of it, because it crashed before you did it?
I did hear the motion.
Okay,
Didn't know if y'all wanted to have any discussion and a vote, just to make that official.
okay.
We did make it
We did,
official.
we passed it with at least 4 votes, so.
That's fine, thank you very much.
Okay.
We're gonna all stand and do the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And now I'll do the roll call of members. Ms. Holly Powell,
Marty Carpenter and no conflict.
okay.
Susan T. Adams, no conflict.
Antoinette Kelly, no conflict.
Howell, no conflict.
All right, so we're just moving right on to the next subject, which is the appointment of officials. And does everybody have an agenda? I did not ask that question. Everybody all the members have their agenda? Public? Okay. We'll do the appointment of precinct officials, which will be presented by Anne Marie Brown. Once that's done, we'll talk about the counting of absentee ballots, and then we'll have the adjournment. So if Ms. Brown, would you go ahead and get started, please?
Sure. So I just want to make sure everybody has a copy of the recommendations by the Democratic Party. And then this is what the Republican Party recommended. Okay. So overall, I think the recommendations were not bad at all. I've seen worse.
Excuse me, Ms. Brown.
I'm sorry. The chair is trying to, yes, sir.
I apologize. I had earlier asked for Ms. Kelly to read a statement on my behalf. I'm able to do that now, if that would be appropriate, just to sort of open the meeting and pass on my thoughts to the group.
Sure
I
thing.
apologize for interrupting.
Sure. ahead.
Thank you very much. I regret that I can't be with you all this afternoon in person, but I'm grateful that modern technology and our excellent IT manager have made it possible for me to participate remotely. I also want to express my gratitude for the conscientious efforts of the chairs of the Moore County Republican and Democratic parties, assisted by the director and her staff, who have devoted hours of diligent research and conscientious discussion in order to develop the proposed list of precinct officials that we will consider today. I'm certain that the members of this board will collaborate effectively to arrive at a final list that achieves a balanced slate of qualified and experienced judges and chief judges whose integrity will ensure an accurate and fair election that will reaffirm the confidence of Moore County voters in our democracy. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Bob.
So Tuan, I don't know, there were some agreements between the two parties. So if we, do we want to say those precincts out loud first? Because they were the same on both recommendations, does that work? Or not quite sure how.
I wonder, do you want to go precinct by precinct?
Okay.
But vote at the end on everything. And voting on each precinct, I don't think is good. But if we agree on a precinct, I guess whichever one we agree on,
Which ones
we
you
know
guys
that, then we
agreed
go to
on?
the next one.
I
And then
can just say,
you're keeping track, unless we want to vote on each precinct 26 times.
all right. So for the Ben Salem precinct, the Democratic Party had nominated Diane Chisholm as the chief judge, Trina Hamilton as a judge, and Barry Zlotton as a judge. My concern with those recommendations is Diane Chisholm has limited skills needed to be a successful chief judge. I feel as if she does not have enough understanding of the law to adequately enforce it, as well as understanding of how to deal with issues that come up on election day. I have no doubt that she can perform as a judge, which is what we recommended. We recommended, and the Republican Party recommended, Ann Spong. She's been a chief judge before. She does have to work out of precinct because her husband works the Seven Lakes precinct. He is a staple in the Seven Lakes precinct. Everybody knows Buddy. As well as he has a slight vision impairment where he's needed to stay closer to home, where Ann can travel, especially in the dark. Those are where his vision impairments is driving in the dark. So she prefers to travel and keep him in their home precinct. Okay.
Anne-Marie,
Yes.
can I ask a question?
Mm-hmm.
You're saying you want him to be a poll worker because he's not nominated as a judge.
No, but I'm telling you why Ann has to work in Ben Salem. Like the
Because
spouses.
he's a poll worker.
Yes, he's a poll worker. So
I
he
just
is
want to clarify.
Oh,
He's not nominated as
No,
a judge.
no. Her husband works the polls in the home precinct just because of his vision impairment in the dark.
Thank you.
And Trina Hamilton, again, she's recommended by all three of us. So, any questions?
Can I
Mhm.
make sure I understand?
Mm-hmm.
So your recommendation is Ann Spong be approved as an out-of-precinct chief judge in Ben Salem with Trina Hamilton and Diane Chisholm as the other two judges.
Yes. I do believe Diane has taken steps to become more knowledgeable about things. Like she's taking some of the computer registration classes, which she hadn't ever previously. So now she is taking those. So she is actually taking steps to become more of an eligible chief judge, which I foresee in the future because she knows those people in the precinct. And that would be my overall goal for that precinct, would be to eventually make her the chief judge. Currently, and with a presidential election coming, I think it would be in the best interest of this office and this board to have someone who is extremely knowledgeable of the law and able to enforce it. That would be my recommendation.
I'm just trying to make sure that Bob hears you.
We are speaking to you.
Thank you.
Yes, I do.
Can you hear me now?
I do very well. I think I was going to suggest to comment that I appreciate her turning the laptop so I can see everybody. Now I have a sense of the lay of the room. It's fine with me if she leaves it in my position because there's a little bit of distortion when she turns it. And if I have any questions, I'll let her know that. I think the best thing is we basically leave the laptop in one orientation unless it's appropriate to change it. And otherwise just confirming then if all of the speakers on the board and staff remember to talk into the microphone, that would be great for me. And also for the recording, which is also important. Thanks very much.
You know, I should preface some of this stuff because I know we have folks that haven't been involved prior to. So when we start this poll worker process every odd number of year, we send out appointment cards in the spring asking, and we send them to all the workers that have worked in the last couple of elections, so the last 3 or 4 elections, asking them if they are willing and would like to be reappointed. So we receive those cards back and we go through everybody. If some, of course, age out or no longer available to work elections, so they do not want to be reappointed. We're lucky a majority of those do want to be reappointed, but we do that every 2 years prior to this meeting. So we do check ahead of time to make sure that they are willing to be reappointed. And this gives us a good idea of our numbers so that if we are short in a precinct, we know where to recruit or where to ask the parties to find poll workers for us.
Can I ask for a clarification? So reading from the statute, and I just want to make sure that we all understand how we're applying the statute in consideration of these nominees. The chairman of each political party in the county where possible shall recommend 2 registered voters in each precinct who are otherwise qualified. And that's where I think you're going. But I want to make sure our residents of the precinct have good moral character and are able to read and write for appointment as chief judge in the precinct. So, and basically if there is somebody in the precinct who is nominated by either party chair, they must be appointed unless we're saying they don't meet those qualifications. And that's my question is, are we able to say that Diane Chisholm does not meet those qualifications? Because otherwise, I don't think we actually have a choice.
Well, I guess I interpret the statute differently, but as of now, and I want to preface that, as of now, I don't think she's qualified. Do I think she can be qualified? Yes.
And I think we're going to have this maybe with 2 or 3 other individuals as well that in the past have proven that they're not reliable. They either don't show on election day or they show and they leave early.
And that
And
is
those are not the kind of people that we need in the position. We need people, whichever party, that'll be there all day long and do the job. We have to kind of have confidence in our staff. They've been working with these people for a while. They know their capabilities. And if in fact they think that that is not the right person for the chief judge, I believe we need to listen to the staff that's been working with them.
I'm not
Excuse me,
debating
excuse me.
the.
Hold on just a second.
She wanted
please.
to know what statute that was, because I was
Oh,
able to
I'm
put
sorry.
your law.
Where's the statute?
It's Article 5, 163-41, precinct chief judges and judges of election. 163-41. And I totally agree with everything you said, Anne Marie, and what Marty said about what we want in a chief judge. My question is, does the statute actually allow us to make the judgment you're asking us to make?
I believe it does, only because, and, you know, I've only worked here a couple of years, but Glenda Clendenin had worked here 35 years. And if anybody knew the statutes, I believe it was her. So there are obviously reasons why Diane hasn't been a chief judge yet. And I think this was a recommendation that we've had in the past, and it was recommended by Glenda. So, you know,
And I'm just gonna read from that statute again on page 41. Does anybody have a book? If you don't, it says if the recommendations of the party chairs for chief judge or judge at a precinct are insufficient, the county board of elections by unanimous vote of all of its members may name to serve as chief judge or judge in that precinct registered voters in that precinct who are not recommended by the party chairs. Is that where we're going?
No, I got the impression here that what we're saying is this,
she's
Is
out.
this
Hold
individual,
on a minute, I'm still talking. Thank you. I am still talking. I'm being interrupted. I have a comment on this. I was told I wasn't qualified either to be a chief judge. I had a whole staff tell me I wasn't qualified to be a chief judge, and I had worked in that process for over 5 years. And I was trained by Glenda. I was trained by Kim Gibson. I was trained by 3 other people that had been here for more years than I had. So just because someone does not get all the training and stuff that you actually need doesn't mean that you're not qualified. That is the most scariest position because you are responsible for the entire election. So to say that somebody's not qualified, I myself am not comfortable with that, but I will not take this personally, but I'm just saying that thought and training of thought is unfair to people that have been working for a while. What qualifies any of us to say you're an expertise? You can't do that. But if Tawana can talk to that, that's fine when I'm done.
Oh, I'm just saying, let me know that, Bob. I think you raised your hand,
Yeah.
Bob.
Yes, I did,
Oh,
but I think
so-
Marty was in the queue before I was, so
Yeah.
I'd be happy to hear what
Oh,
he has to
okay.
say.
I'll just make it.
Mr. Chairman, go ahead. That's fine.
I'm
Go
gonna
ahead.
go back.
She's finished.
So once I'm done with that, I'm trying to keep a positive attitude towards this whole thing of choosing the chief judges, because that's a really important factor in this particular election, especially when it's coming up for next year. Right now, even this discussion is challenging for me as a person because of what I was put through, and I didn't appreciate it. But once I became a chief judge and I had to prove myself that I could do this job because, quote, I wasn't qualified, I had no problems. Because you know what? We were unbiased, the staff that I worked with. We helped each other. We made sure that everything there that on that election day was done properly. Every person is a judge, whether you have the title chief judge or not. Those other 2 judges have your back. So let's not get into titles and who's this, that, and the other. Let's get into fairness of people that are going to be working these elections for us. That's where I'm at on that. And I am not attacking you. I don't want to attack you. That's not what I'm saying. I'm just giving my own opinion. And I'm trying to make this more of a, I've lost for words right now. But that is my own opinion of this. It's apples and oranges right now, and we don't need a debate. We need our best persons in there that are going to run this election thoroughly, smoothly for everybody. I don't care which affiliation you're with, as long as you make this a fair and straight and honest election for every municipality, for every single citizen of this United States of America. That's what I'm looking at. So whether we do choose these persons or not, let's look at some other things about the positive factors that are going to, help us get through this election thing. I'm not saying that the staff is not able to make those decisions, because you
kinda just
are.
did.
Huh?
So.
I'm not saying that you can't, but I'm just saying there's more of a, I think there's a more of a gentler way to go about making these decisions so that people don't feel offended. That's all I'm saying. And Marty, I'm sorry.
So I guess my question now is, we're arguing that because the Democrat County Chairman nominated Ms. Chisholm,
Okay.
that we should put her in that position. But the Republican County Chairman
Mhm.
nominated Ms. Fong. So
She-
somebody has to make,
No, but if someone who is in the precinct is nominated and the other nominee is from out of precinct, the one in precinct must be appointed if they meet the qualifications. That's what the statute
And I'm
says.
saying she does not meet the qualifications. I understand where you're coming from, Tony. I'll be honest with you, I don't look at party when it comes to qualifications. I'm in that training room. I see if they can type. I see if they understand the issues that go on at the help desk and can rectify those issues. Okay? And when I say I'm not confident in her ability to do that, I'm not. And especially for a presidential election. Okay? Actually, Ann Spong is of the same party affiliation as Ms. Chisholm. So when I say I don't look at your party affiliation when it comes to qualifications, I'm telling you the truth. I see what goes on in that training facility, and I know who can handle things and who can't. I also hear feedback from the other poll workers and the other judges, who the stress is put on them when a chief judge is not qualified. I have emails from other judges who are willing to quit when we put an unqualified person in that chief judge position. And I do not want to lose any good workers. Now, Ms. Chisholm, do I foresee that she will eventually be a chief judge? Yes, because she is working hard. Okay, she is taking the steps and taking the classes to become qualified. Okay, is she ready now? No. Will she be? Definitely.
Bob has his hand up.
Go ahead, Bob.
Go ahead, Bob.
Thank you very much. This is primarily a clarification for the point that Holly was making earlier about what's required if a party chair recommends an in-precinct candidate for judge, that candidate must be appointed. It seems to me that we may be, and Holly or anybody else who mastered the statute, please clarify this. Diane Chisholm on the Republican and the Board of Elections list is included as a judge, just not as a chief judge. Does that not meet the requirement of the statute that if the party chair recommends someone in precinct, that he or she must be appointed as a judge? Does it necessarily mean that she must be a chief judge if that's what the party chair submitted her name as?
That is what the statute says, Bob. If they're otherwise qualified. It says it is in direct reference to appointments for chief judge.
Chief Judge is an assistant.
and the question is she otherwise qualified?
Yeah.
And Anne Marie says she's not.
Right now.
Right now.
I want to preface that right now.
Well,
Okay, because I do foresee, and she knows our intention the intention of her becoming the chief judge in that precinct. We have told her that. And
but we're appointing for 2 years.
yes, we are. Yes, we
It's
are.
not like next
No.
year she
No.
is chief judge.
And I think it's important to know that next year is a presidential year. Okay, and that's stressful enough.
I may chime in. Ann Spong was willing to train Miss Diane to give her more practice. And so taking Ann out, Diane won't be able to use that experience to get the practice that she's needing to get when I've talked to Diane, sometime, and we are working on this, she wanted to be able to come to more classes to get more comfortable in what it needs to be a chief judge. But now she won't have that individual there that we were shadowing with her to get her to that point.
Okay, let me ask a question. Because I'd like us as a board to come to an agreement about what we're going to consider under otherwise qualified. Perhaps we should make a resolution, or I should propose a resolution that we are going to consider the fact that the statute requires us to consider whether these candidates are otherwise qualified, to include the experience that board members or board members or the BOE staff are going to relay to us as we consider the candidates. That's my proposed resolution.
I guess I'm not sure how we can have specifics here on this. You know, are there 20 qualifications they have to meet? I believe our staff that's been working with these people for several years know them better than anybody else. And as Anne Marie says, she believes that Chisholm will be qualified here in the future, just not this time around. And I believe we have to go with that, because if we have to do this on every case, I don't know how we're ever going to determine the qualifications. A lot of that is subjective in some respects.
Bob has his hand up.
Okay, sir.
Point of clarification, the staff should be able to clarify this. In fact, is there a municipal election in the Van Salem precinct this November? Are there contested offices that will require an election?
No,
No,
sir,
no
it's-
election up that way.
It's not a
So her
municipality.
first election that she will actually take on is the
Primary.
primary election for the presidential next year.
Thank you very much.
Yes, sir.
So can you
I
answer
think
this question for me?
Marty's saying that we don't need a resolution. So
What,
he
I don't-
thinks we can consider people's.
Based on input from the staff, and I now have changed my mind. I was hoping we could do a vote at the end after the 26 precincts. I no longer think that. We're going to have to vote on each precinct as it comes up. I believe that's the only way we're going to be able to do it, because I won't even remember by the time we get to the 26 what the others are. And then, so we have to decide right now, which one of these do we want to go with? We're going to need a unanimous. And then somebody makes a motion, and then it's seconded. I missed it. Do we want to do it now, each precinct? I think that's how we're going to have to do it.
well, what we need to do then is, like, as you said, Marty, we need to make a motion, agree to that motion, and then we can move forward, whether we do the 26 precincts individually or all
I
of
think
us.
we
Like you
need to
said.
do each one individually.
What do you
Because
think?
there's a cascading effect.
He doesn't need a motion to do each one individually.
No, we're gonna do,
We're just gonna do
what I'm thinking is that, Marty, are you saying you're making a motion to carte blanche?
Well, I was gonna
That we
nominate.
go-
I was
go
basically-
through
Yeah, I was going to basically,
Yeah.
Okay, I'll do it. I'm making a motion that we take for Ben Salem, that we take the Board of Elections recommendation, Ann Spong, Chief Judge, Trina Hamilton, Judge, and Diane Chisholm, Judge.
Okay, let me just clarify. For Ann Strong, it requires a unanimous vote because she's out of precinct. If we're going to make Diane a judge and Trina a judge, all we have to do is, well, we could just, it doesn't require a unanimous vote. It only requires a unanimous vote not to appoint somebody who's out of precinct. So for the first one, we have to vote individually.
So we're going to have to do this all the way through. We have to be voting individually.
Because the others, most of them do.
Okay, hold on just a second,
We
please.
need clarification. So basically, what the board wants to do is they're gonna go precinct by precinct they're going to review each person appointed to make the recommendation, or the whole precinct as a whole?
Well, on some of them, it's really simple. We all nominated the same
Okay,
people
so-
and we all agree and we should be
Okay.
able to approve the whole precinct.
Okay, so we're gonna do the whole precinct.
But not on the ones, well, we can't all first.
Okay, so,
So I would just want clear,
I'm sorry,
yes.
there is a motion on the floor, it's not been seconded.
Yes, it was.
the resolution that,
Listen, if you seconded it earlier, I didn't hear it. And then we can discuss what that motion is and perhaps, suggest any amendments. But, and I don't want to beat everybody over the head with Robert's rules of order, but there's gotta be some way to bring some kind of consistency in the way that we proceed.
Yes, Bob. So the motion was are you talking about the motion for the resolution, Bob?
The motion that Marty just articulated.
Okay,
Ben Salem, the 3 judges for Ben Salem.
okay.
I'm sorry, what was the motion?
Okay. I'll review the motion. It was to approve Ann Spong as chief judge, Trina Hamilton as judge, and Diane Chisholm as judge.
Is there a second to that motion?
Here is a second.
Call
Call for the vote.
Call for the vote, please. No.
If you could please call for discussion.
Okay.
And then talking on the board for the next
Yes.
session.
May I have a call for discussion, please? Bob?
Yes, ma'am, thank you very much. I would offer friendly amendments to, along the lines of what Paul has suggested. That is based on the statutes requirements concerning increasing or out of precinct. I promise you, I don't want to make this any more complicated than it has to be. But in this instance, we would need to, might need to be divided, because there's a divergence in those on the board. But she's right in saying that there needs to be unanimous consent for Ms. Vaughn to be a judge, in this case, a chief judge, in Penn State, because she's not a case. That unanimity is not required for Hamilton. It's just, and finally to repeal my cards in the interest not only of moving on, but in weighing the strict interpretation of the statute against the recommendations and experience of the staff. In this case, I myself am happy with the slate that Marty just articulated as on as Chief Judge Hamilton and Diane Chisholm as judges. Thank you.
Is there any further discussion? There being, I'm calling for the question, there being no discussion, more discussion. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carried.
I'll just say one thing before we move on, to reassure the public who are in attendance. I don't know whether they've had an opportunity to see the spreadsheet that the members of the board and the staff have. I assure you that Penn Salem is about the most complicated one on the whole list. And as I suggested earlier, and I think Marty agreed, after it does, it will be much smoother sailing to make our way through the rest of the precincts. Thank you.
All right, so for Cameron, it looks like everybody agreed on Cameron.
So based on
What?
what Mr. Carpenter said, we need to vote on.
Yes,
So,
both parties agreed on.
Can I just ask, Emery, do you have any comments about any of the proposed?
No,
individuals?
I am perfectly fine with those recommendations.
Then I make a motion that we unanimously appoint Carolyn Marsh as Chief Judge, Linda Gore, and Nelia Jenkins as judges.
Second.
question? Discussion? Call for the vote?
Aye.
And I. Okay. Motion carried. Next precinct, please.
All right, so it looks like the next precinct, Carthage, both parties agreed as, and I'll read the names, I should have read the last name, sorry. Kim Gibson as the chief judge, Lauren Kennefick as a judge, and Alan McKinnon as a judge.
Need a motion?
I move that the three names just presented be accepted.
I'll second.
Discussion? None? Call for the vote?
Aye.
It's unanimous. Motion carries, sorry.
All right, for the next precinct, DHR, both parties were in agreement with Donna Gardner as chief judge, Tricia Mabe as a judge. The only recommendation I can make would be Diane Wyatt. Although it's her home precinct, there is some personality conflicts, and she prefers to work in Robbins. Now, Gail Simmons, her home precinct is Robbins, but she's more than happy to work in DHR. She worked there last year and got along with all the staff very well. So that would be the only change, and I believe Gail would be a Democrat to put in that precinct. She's not.
She's unaffiliated.
Oh, she's unaffiliated, so it's the same. So an unaffiliated for an unaffiliated, because I believe Diane Wyatt is unaffiliated.
My only question would be, I was under the impression that when the Democratic Party chair submitted his list, all of the people who were nominated agreed to be nominated to work in those precincts. So I'm a little surprised she doesn't want to work in that precinct.
Diane White, yes, no, I hate to tell you, she will not work in there. She won't work at all if she works at DHR. Along with Peggy Capel, she wasn't contacted either. There was a number of people who weren't contacted, unfortunately. So, I mean, it's up to you guys.
But we don't want to appoint
I
somebody.
know, I
who's
mean,
not
that,
gonna
she
accept
won't
the
work,
position.
unfortunately. And I do think Diane is a very good worker. I do. And she definitely knows the law, and she can definitely enforce it.
Nobody recommended her to work in the precinct that, as a judge, that she wants to work in. Is that correct?
Wait, say that again.
She's not recommended as a judge in the precinct she wants to work in?
The Republican Party did.
In Robbins?
Yes. I just looked on my sheet, Robbins.
Oh,
Her first name, I'm sorry, her first name is Mary. If so,
Yeah, we've got her down as a judge in Robbins.
Right.
And that
oh,
does,
Mary Diane, I see her.
yes, her first name's Mary, but she prefers to go by Diane. So I call her by her nickname. Sorry.
Yeah, okay. Well, okay, I'll make a motion that we appoint Donna Garner as chief judge, Patricia Mabe as judge, and Gail Simmons out of precinct as the third judge.
I'll second.
Discussion? There's no discussion?
Yes,
Yes. Oh, Bob, I'm sorry. I forget to look at the computer. I'm so sorry.
based on some consultation over the weekend after we received the list from the party chairs, and received clarifications from the Democratic chair, it's my understanding that someone on his staff, one of the vice chairs, did in fact contact Diane to confirm that she would work in that precinct. Now, I can't cover it up right now, and I don't want to, I'm happy to support the resolution that's just been made, but I just felt compelled to bring that to y'all's attention. Based on the experience again of the staff, I don't want to, find us stuck in the position where people who are qualified not working if they're not posted in their precinct. So maybe I should have just kept my hand down, but.
Well, I don't want to speak out of turn.
I thought I needed to bring it at least into discussion, and we can proceed. If anybody else has a comment,
I'm happy,
great, then we can.
I'm happy to call her.
Is that where
Oh.
she went?
Yes, I'm more than happy. If I misspoke, I mean, that's what she's always prefaced to us. But I did tell Carrie to go call Miss Wyatt to verify that. Because if she said she's willing, I'm more than happy. Either one of those ladies are more than sufficient to be a judge. Okay. I was just always told that she prefers not to work in DHR. But if she did say that, so Carrie's going to go call her if we want to. Do we want to go to the next one? I mean, I would rather double check than not check,
Yes.
if that's okay.
Okay.
So if we want to go to the next one until she gets back.
Do you have a question?
Thank you. I was just going to suggest what Anne Marie just did. And I just, in the interest of efficiency, I offer the possibility that we don't need to, there's a motion on the floor, let's proceed in a friendly manner. If we can remain organized, just go to the next one while Carrie is verifying this piece of information. And then we finish whatever discussion we're on with that precinct, then return to this precinct once we have confirmation one way or the other. Thanks.
Okay.
All right, so the next precinct would be East Aberdeen. I think between the two, there were some minor differences. So the Republican Party had recommended Sonia Jones as the chief judge, Del Crumpton as a judge, and David Lucier as a judge. The Democratic Party had recommended David Lucier as a chief judge, Del Crumpton as a judge, and Julia Kane from Pinehurst A1 as a judge. My only recommendation would be Julia Kane. She's only worked 3 elections. The last election, she didn't even show up with no phone call, which is documented, with an email from the chief judge at A1. My recommendation, I agree with the Republican Party. I believe Sonia Jones is qualified to be the chief judge. She was actually a judge under David Lucier, and I believe the board members have an email from Sonia detailing how do I say it nicely? The mess that was created when someone with only 1 election under his belt was named as a chief judge. Now, do I think David can be a judge? I do, because I believe Sonia and Del have very strong skills. I think when you have an inexperienced judge who leaves everything up to the judges, which it sounds like from that email, I don't think that's appropriate. They're getting paid. It's their responsibility. Their name goes on it. They should be doing the work and they should know their job. So, but again, I do think David can be a judge.
I'll make a motion that we appoint Sonia Jones as chief judge, Dale Crumpton and David Lucier as judges.
Second.
Any discussion? Call for the vote.
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. One, you have a question on
No,
this?
I have the response,
Okay.
for DHR.
Well, let me go.
Once
Let's
you
finish
finish,
this. Okay. The ayes have it. Motion carried. Okay. Tawana.
So Carrie was able to get up with Miss Diane, and she basically stated that no one called her and she won't serve up there.
But does she still want to work though? She still
Yes,
wants
she
to work,
does.
but she
will
just
not
doesn't
be
want to work
DHR.
at Deep River High Falls. She'll work in Robbins?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Mary Diane has a very strong personality, which I love. So there's just, like I said, either one of those precincts, all those people are qualified to work. I just think they don't mix very well. Kind of like oil and water, really.
I'll make a motion that for DHR, we appoint Donna Garner, chief judge, Patricia Mabe as a judge, and Gail Simmons as the second judge.
Second.
Any discussion? Call for the vote.
Aye.
Okay, the next
Motion carries.
The next precinct is East Knollwood. I think both parties were in agreement on the first two. Patricia Watts as the chief judge, Barry Stabile as a judge. The Republican Party had recommended Lydia Weaver as a judge. Looks like the Democratic Party had recommended Susan Fletcher from Pinehurst A1 to be a judge. My only concern is she's never worked elections at all. She's not one of our. Now, I don't personally know her. She may have worked elections in another state, but she's never worked for us at all. That would be my concern with that one.
Do you have any concerns about Lydia Weaver?
I do not. She works here at the sheriff's office, so she's pretty on the up and up.
Do you have any complaints about Patricia Watts?
I do not. I think,
I worked as a poll worker, as a judge,
mhm,
when she was chief judge.
yes.
It was very difficult.
I've never had any complaints from Lydia or Barry.
And they both worked with her.
They have for years. I've
She
never,
would not work a computer at all. She never touched a computer. She was chief judge. I was a judge and there was another judge. We were very busy. I did the help desk all day, except for 15 minutes when I ate my lunch. And when we went to close that night, she wouldn't let anybody else help her with anything. And I think we were one of the last precincts to bring on material here because she wanted to do everything herself. And it was a couple of years ago. I don't know if it's changed, but as long as we're talking about what's happened,
yeah,
the
no,
performance
I
of
mean,
judges.
I welcome feedback, and we tell our poll workers, our judges, and our chief judges if there's any kind of feedback, because we do need to document it. We don't want somebody that's not appropriate in the polls. So, as far as I know, I've never had a complaint from Barry or Lydia.
And they've both been judges with her.
Yes.
Okay.
Can I just ask, Ms. Holly? Because one of the things that we are trying to get our assistant judges and judges to do to give us status reports, and so I would like to look into that.
Bob?
I can't remember, I'm sorry, I can't remember. I'd be surprised if I didn't tell someone, but I don't, it was in the general election.
Okay,
So it
I was
would've
going to
been
say, I
like
can figure out which election it
2020, I
was.
think.
Yeah.
Um,
I can figure out which
yeah,
election.
I only worked there once, so
Okay.
you'll be able to figure it out.
Okay, I'll look back.
Bob?
Yes, thank you. Based on the information that I'm looking at on the spreadsheet, which is a compilation of the list submitted by, or initially developed by Board of Elections, Republican chair and the Democrat chair, we may be bumping into, unless there's a correction here, the same issue that we had in terms of in precinct versus out of precinct candidates. Is it correct, based on the understanding of the staff and other people who have conducted research into candidates, that Lydia Weaver is in precinct for East Homewood, and therefore, since she was recommended by the Republican chair, it's required that she be accepted as a judge? That's totally separate from the concerns about Patricia Watts, which may be able to be, and I certainly respect Holly's experience and value that, but perhaps these issues can be addressed in training, both in a general way and if necessary, with a personal side to Ms. Watts.
Bob, is that a question or is that a suggestion?
It's a suggestion about any possible issues with Ms. Watts as the chief judge. The question that I have is it accurate information that Lydia Weaver is in precinct in East Norwood? If it is true, then it looks like we must accept her because she was recommended by the Republican Party chair. And Susan Fletcher is also out of precinct.
That's correct, Bob.
Did you hear that, Bob? That is correct.
Thank you.
You are correct. No, we haven't had a motion on
I
this. Are
make a
there,
motion that we
Oops,
accept.
I'm sorry, for long discussion when there had been a motion. My apologies.
go ahead.
I make a motion that we accept Patricia Watts, Barry's Daigle, and Lydia Weaver for this precinct.
I second it.
Any discussion? Further discussion? Call for the vote.
Aye.
Ayes have it. Motion carried.
The
I would
next,
like for the board to take note that we have completed one page.
Of three.
That's how we roll.
the next precinct would be Eastwood. I think
What
the,
happened to your?
oh, did I skip one? Oh, I did.
Oh,
Okay, sorry. I'm trying to go faster than Eureka, Whispering Pines. So, wait a minute. Over there. Okay. So Eureka, Whispering Pines, the Republican Party recommended Kim Reagan as the chief judge, Caroline Kelly as a judge, and Georgia Hughes Nelson as a judge. The Democratic Party recommended Catherine Drexel as a chief judge, Kim Reagan as a judge, and Georgia Hughes Nelson as a judge. My only concern would be Catherine as a chief judge. there have been times when the last time she was appointed as the chief judge, and about a month before the election, she said, "Oh, I'm not going to be able to work that day." So we had to scramble. I sometimes think I think as a chief judge, and I think Holly and both Antoinette know what I'm talking about, it is a lot of responsibility. And it's a huge responsibility. I think some people are happy being judges where some of the weight is lifted as opposed to a chief judge. I think Catherine is extremely comfortable being a judge, and I don't have a problem with her being a judge. She can work the computer. She comes to all the help desks and all the trainings. My concern is I'm not quite sure she's willing to accept that responsibility.
Having worked with her over the years, and I refuse to say how many years, I totally concur with what Henry has just said.
I was speaking to the microphone, Susan.
Oh, good. So we did hear that.
Having worked with her for many, many years, I totally concur
Okay.
with what Anne Marie has said.
Eureka Whispering Pines is a very big precinct, a very busy precinct. They are typically lines out the door. I don't know that Cassie could, or Catherine, like I said, I just don't think she wants the responsibility, because I've seen that precinct on election day, and it is a lot of people. And Kim handles it very well. And that's one of the reasons why we don't have her in our home precinct of Cameron. Cameron does not vote a lot of voters. It's a very small precinct. She is better utilized in a much larger precinct. So and Eureka is one of the 3 largest precincts voter-wise and voter turnout that we have. They typically can vote anywhere from 15 to 2,000 people, along with Seven Lakes and Pinehurst C. So in those 3 precincts, it is, I would think, imperative that we have someone who is competent to control a very large precinct.
So Anne Marie, could you comment on your thoughts about Kimbra Reagan being the chief judge, Catherine Drexel, and Georgia Hughes Nelson being the 2 other judges?
I believe last election, I know Georgia wasn't a judge last year because she's new to Moore County. So she worked, last November was her first election. She has worked elections in Maryland for years before she moved here. I believe the 3 of them worked very well together. I had Georgia, she picked up the computer. I'm pretty sure she was helping Kim on the help desk. So I don't foresee any issues with the 3 of them working together. And I know Cassie and Kim get along. They've worked together for years because Cassie she's been a judge for a number of years with Kim over there in Eureka. So I have no qualms that all 3 of them could work very well.
Then I'd like to make a motion that for, Europa Whispering Pines, the chief judge be Kimbra Reagan, with the judges Catherine Drexel and Georgia Hughes Nelson.
I'll second that.
Discussion? Call for the vote.
Aye.
Aye.
Vote. Unanimously, the motion carries.
The next precinct is Eastwood now. I believe the only difference between the 2 is the chief judge recommendation. Both parties recommended Michelle Horner as a judge and Alice Ann Hyman as a judge. The Democratic Party recommended Sarah Conti as the chief judge, and the Republican Party recommended Michael Gore as the chief judge. To be honest with you, I'm okay with either one. I think Sarah Conti is a very good worker. She's actually been a judge before when in a time of need. So either one would be okay with me. Sarah didn't work the last election because she was undergoing radiation treatments. So I don't know. I would want to make sure that she is capable of taking on the chief judge role.
We can't even consider her if you can't tell us that Mikhail Gore is unqualified. Because he's in precinct and she's not.
Yeah, I don't think he's unqualified. Do I think she could, she has worked more elections than him. So she does have more experience. And I think the three ladies would get along fine, to be honest with you.
But you don't have reservations about Mikhail Gore. I hear reservations.
Yeah, I probably do. I think the inexperience would be my reservation because she has more experience. And that's what it would come down to me.
I don't know if that rises to the level of us being able to say he's unqualified.
I'll cross the aisle. I move that we accept Sarah Conti as the chief judge, Michael Horner as the judge, and Alice Ann Heyman as the judge
We have a
for
question.
EWD.
Can we hold that motion? Or we have to give a second first.
Second,
Okay, it was seconded by Holly Powell. There is a question.
My thing is, first of all, I certainly appreciate Marty's gesture, but if we're going to be consistent about, to the extent that we've tried to follow the requirements of the statute vis-a-vis in precinct recommendations, as Holly pointed out earlier, then, and since Anne Marie has indicated that, I'm sorry, I missed the pronunciation, Miguel Gore is not unqualified to be a chief judge, then it looks like, since that was the recommendation of the Republican Party chair, it looks like we're pretty much constrained. And I only return to this because I don't want to come up with a slate of approved candidates, which is challenged later, requiring us to come to another meeting and also look like we don't understand the statute. Thank you.
Further discussion needed.
Can I withdraw my motion?
Yes. You can withdraw the motion and we can, it's okay. I'd rather be with, so we're looking at the candidates again, and as chief judge, Anne Marie, correct me please. Michael Gore, correct?
Yep, you're
I need another motion.
I'm just going through what's on the slate first, and I haven't done, I'm not a motion, so I understand who we're voting for right now. It's Mikhail Gore, chief judge, Michelle Horner, judge, and Alice Ann Hyman, another judge, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So now the motion can be made.
I make a motion to that effect.
Second.
Discussion. Call to vote.
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you, Bob.
Motion carried.
I'm hoisted on my own petard, Bob.
The next precinct is Little River, and both parties agreed to Cindy Duckett as the chief judge, Janie Garner as a judge, and Sandra Myers as a judge.
Any discussion?
Anne Marie, do you have any input?
Any input, Emery?
No, I'm happy with those three. They work well together.
I make a motion that we appoint those three.
Second.
Discussion? Call the vote.
Sorry, Bob. I be trying to be all
Aye.
Okay.
Ayes have it, motion okay,
Okay.
motion carried. I have to wait for a response from Bob on the computer before I can keep going, that's
Sorry.
the concern.
I'm trying to make sure I see his hand. and-
Yeah, okay. Anne Marie?
The next precinct is North Southern Pines. It looks like both parties were in agreement on the first two, Patrick Smithson as the chief judge, Martin Wace as a judge. The only difference, Republican Party recommended Philip Layton as a judge, and the Democratic Party nominated Peggy Capel. Peggy Capel I spoke to, and she will not travel. She will not work North Southern Pines. She's worked in South Southern Pines, her home precinct, for 19 elections, and she prefers to stay there. So,
We could only consider her if we rule out Philip Layton anyway.
and Philip Layton is more than qualified.
I make a motion that we accept Patrick Smithson, Martin Wace, and Philip Layton.
I second it.
Discussion? Call the vote,
Aye.
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 motion carried.
All right, next precinct is Pine Bluff. Looks like the parties were in agreement on one, Gerald Schwartz as a judge. There was no Republican nominee for a judge. The Democratic Party recommended Donna Lee. For chief judge, Republican Party nominated Pam Wace, and the Democratic Party nominated Sue McKenzie. Both those ladies are qualified to be a chief judge. Pam Wace has been a chief judge in Pine Bluff for 17 elections. Sue is actually the chief judge in Bass, or has been.
I make a motion that we appoint Pamela Ways, Chief Judge Gerald Schwartz, and Donna Lee as judges.
Second.
Discussion? Call for the vote,
Aye.
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 motion carried.
Next precinct is the Pine Precinct. The Republican Party nominated Maureen Duquestre as the chief judge, Carolyn Burma, I think is how you pronounce it, as a judge, and Catherine Shermer as the second judge. The Democratic Party nominated Catherine Shermer as the chief judge, Sarah Parrish as a judge, and Kathleen Ong as the second judge. My concern, Carolyn's only worked one election. So that would be my concern with her. Maureen Duquestre, she's worked 18 elections in that precinct. She has served both as judge and chief judge. She is happy to do either one. Catherine has worked 3 elections. And I can't say that she's unqualified. I think she has taken all of our classes. She's proficient on the computer. She has, I believe she's come to more than one help desk training in an election, just to make sure that she gets it right. Here's my thing. When somebody's worked their 18 elections, I think we can all gather they're very serious about their position and their job. So I do think Maureen takes her job very seriously. I don't ever have an issue with relying on her to pick up her stuff. I know her paperwork's always right. And that's only because I've worked with her and the previous people in my position have worked with her. So that would be, but I can't say that Catherine's not qualified. I would like the three ladies work extremely well together.
The third one
Which
being
Between
Catherine.
Catherine, Sarah, and Maureen. Kathleen Ong, she's worked only a couple of elections. She does have a very important job with the state of North Carolina, so she has not been able to work because of her job. So I don't know if she can commit the time, only because of her job with the state. But she's competent. She's taken most of the classes. I just would be concerned that her job would interfere, only because it has in the past.
Did you say something in regards to Sarah Parrish?
No, Sarah Parrish has worked. She has worked 12 elections in that precinct, so she's been a long-standing. 5 as an assistant, 7 as a judge.
Thank you.
So Anne Marie, would you say you're comfortable with Maureen as chief and Catherine and Sarah as the other two judges?
I'm extremely comfortable with those 3.
Is anybody? Say that again, Holly, I'm not hard to hear.
That Maureen as chief judge, Catherine and Sarah as the other two judges.
No, I was just asking. what she
Was
said.
what I was asking Anne Marie.
I am.
And you said you're comfortable.
I am. I'm extremely comfortable with those 3.
Were you making that a motion?
Not yet.
Okay.
I still have more.
I'll let somebody else do it.
I move that we accept these 3 ladies, Maureen, however you say her last name, Sarah Parrish and Catherine Schwimmer.
Second.
Discussion? Call for the vote? Oh, sorry about that, y'all. Let's go back to the discussion.
Certainly appreciate Maureen's years of service, but up in the Democratic recommendations, we Catherine Schwimmer as the chief judge, Sarah Parrish as a judge, and Kathleen Ong as a judge. And with Allison, I appreciate Avery's comments about her possible challenges and meeting requirements if she has agreed to be considered in this position and the Democratic Party chair has recommended her. And all 3 of these, Catherine, Sarah, and Kathleen, are in the party, then I believe that that's a more legitimate slate than the other ones, the Maureen, Sarah, and Catherine. Thank you, and I appreciate the observations of the
How many elections has Maureen worked, and has she been the chief judge?
She has worked 18 altogether, 13 as an assistant, 1 as a judge, and 4 as a chief judge.
So if we don't accept her, we're kind of slapping her in the
And
face, I think.
she's in precinct.
All of the ones we're discussing are in precinct.
Yes, they are, all of them. My only concern, like I said, and honestly, I don't know that Maureen would be offended if she was a judge and Catherine Schwimmer was the chief judge. I think she would be, I honestly do think she would be okay with that. My only concern would be Miss Ong's. reliability.
Let me just pose this to Bob. Bob, would you find it more acceptable for Catherine to be the chief with Maureen and Sarah as the judges?
Bob, did you hear what Ms. Holly said?
I did hear, I think
Okay.
it's Catherine as the,
Chief Judge,
even as the chief judge, Maureen as a judge, I guess that would be, Maureen, then would be Maureen and Sarah, affiliated,
correct.
or you suggested Maureen and Kathleen.
We can consider either.
So has Catherine been a chief judge before?
She has not. She's been a judge. She's worked 3 elections, one as an assistant and 2 as a judge. Catherine Shermer. Okay. There's Catherine and Kathleen. I just want to make sure I got the right one. Kathleen's worked probably, I should have wrote it down, probably about 4 or 5 elections as an assistant.
Sure.
No, Kathleen Ong. Ong, I assume that's how you say it. Ong.
Do you want to make a motion, Bob?
A motion was made and seconded, and now we're in discussion.
sorry, we're in discussion, so we have to.
I'm sorry. What were the 3 in the motion?
I believe, isn't the case this morning? Or was it Susan?
Marty made a motion.
You make that motion.
No.
I did not make a motion. No.
I made the
You
motion
made the
for
motion.
Maureen, Sarah, and Catherine,
Right.
and it was seconded, and then we had discussion, and now
But I
I
think
either need.
we should vote on that, right?
Yes.
Unless there's a, I think that's the first way to vote.
It's a little bit complicated because, let me think about this. Maureen, Sarah, and
Catherine Sherman.
Catherine. Okay, yeah. Am I-
In order to, my understanding would be that in order to consider the sort of rearrangement, realignment that Holly has proposed comments, then the first thing we need to do is vote down Marty's motion and then consider a second motion. If that's what the body needs to do.
I did not make a motion. I think Susan made the motion.
Susan made the motion, Marty seconded, and then
And it's a majority vote.
You call the question.
call for the question.
Aye.
What's the motion now? What are we
We're writing
I
down.
guess bring up just,
If you want to ask for no votes,
basically ask for all in favor and those against, probably easiest way to do it.
All in favor of the current motion that's on the table, correct? Which is Maureen, I can't pronounce her last name, Sarah Parrish, and Catherine Shermer for this precinct, which is the Pine District precinct, excuse me. Those not in favor? We'll go backwards, or those in favor?
Okay.
Those in favor of this motion, say aye.
Aye.
Those not in favor?
Nay.
Okay, so it's,
Did you vote?
I did not.
It's 2-2. Yeah.
I'm sitting closest to.
I know that. He is too. No, it's a nay. Nay.
Second.
Okay.
Did you make a second?
So we need to make a new motion, so that motion didn't carry. The first motion did not carry. Now we need a new motion made. Holly? Or Bob? One of y'all need to make a motion if you choose, or,
All right, I'll go after you, and then you can discuss it, and if you don't like it, you can vote this thing.
okay.
I move that, for finding precinct, Catherine Schreiber be approved as the chief judge, Maureen D. as a judge, and Kathleen Ong as a judge.
I second it.
The motion has been made and second. Discussion. Call for the, oh, do you have discussion, Susan? I'm sorry.
So of the ones, of the Kathleen, has the least amount of experience,
Yes.
Yes.
and we have to be unanimous.
Yes.
No,
No?
No?
no,
Okay.
it's just a majority. They're all in precinct.
Go for it.
Call for the vote?
Aye,
And all in favor? You can ask for all in favor?
Go, all in favor?
aye.
Aye.
All right, next
Wait
precinct.
a minute.
Oh, wait a minute, I'm sorry.
How many did you vote?
I'm sorry.
I need to ask a question. What are the parties to make sure it's balanced?
Oh,
in this
I'm
precinct?
sorry.
Because I don't know.
So I've got Catherine Shermer, a Democrat,
Okay.
Sarah Parrish as unaffiliated, and Kathleen Ong, a Democrat.
No.
No, I'm talking about what the one that, the motion that they had.
And Maureen is, yeah, that's not our motion.
Oh, I'm sorry.
So
Catherine
Schreiber
is chief judge, Maureen as a judge, and
and
Kathleen Ong is a judge. It's chief judge
Oh, I'm
is a
sorry,
Dem,
sorry. So, Maureen,
Kathleen is a
I'm
Dem,
sorry.
and Maureen is an independent,
Yes.
unaffiliated, I'm sorry.
So are we back at the vote, correct?
I think so, looks like we're hanging in the middle.
And that's me.
If we want to short circuit that, because just like a discussion has been entered, then maybe we should do that. I don't know quite how to proceed with this. I don't want to be difficult again, and I'm happy to temporarily withdraw this motion in order, in the interest of efficiency and clarity, in order to continue the discussion based on what Donna's question was concerning the balance of parties in this precinct.
Excuse me.
Yes.
We were in the middle of a vote and Tony didn't vote.
I didn't vote yet.
Are you gonna vote?
Yeah, I am gonna vote, but everybody was talking, so I didn't.
Let's just vote and be
So-
done.
Well, then I think that's what's appropriate is for you to vote.
Aye,
We're done.
we're done.
You gonna get the nays?
No, I didn't do the nays. I apologize.
Excuse. I made the motion, I'll repeat it. Catherine Shermer for chief judge, Maureen D. for a judge, and Kathleen Ong for a judge.
There were 3 ayes. Any opposed?
Aye.
2 opposed. Motion carried. Are you got a question?
No, I'm good now. I was just trying to figure out who was where.
Yeah, I
So,
don't
I'm
All right.
sorry.
So, do you have all the affiliations that you need for these 3 candidates?
Just because when I post them, I have to put there, and I didn't know what this Kathleen was. That's the
Oh,
only.
and that's okay.
Yes, ma'am.
I just want to make sure
The colors tell you what
it's,
No, ma'am.
they are. Yeah,
No, on my end, she's in blue, so I didn't know that she was unaffiliated.
no, she's not. She's a Dem. Blue means she's a Democrat.
Okay, so Miss Catherine Schumer is.
is it,
Democrat, then Kathleen Ong is a Democrat.
Yes.
Okay, and then.
Maureen.
Maureen is an
Unaffiliated.
Okay, I'm sorry, thank you.
So the next precinct is Pinehurst A1. And it looks like we were all in agreement on that one. Patricia Bozich as the chief judge, Jennifer Tomlin as a judge, and Rosa Riccio as a judge.
We're all in agreement, motion.
Mhm. Yep, both parties
I make
agree.
a motion that we appoint those three.
Second.
Discussion? Call for the vote.
All in favor?
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried.
The next precinct is Pinehurst A2. Both parties were in agreement on the first two, Nancy Anders as the chief judge, Charles Hicks as a judge. The Republican Party nominated James O'Brien as a judge, and the Democratic Party nominated Diane New as a judge. Again, I'm looking at experience. Mr. O'Brien has worked 8 elections, 1 as an assistant, 7 as a judge. Miss New has worked 2 elections as an assistant.
Do you have any comments about the others?
I'm confident with Nancy Anders being a judge, Mr. Hicks being a judge. Nancy runs a pretty tight ship over at A2, so I'm pretty confident she can handle that. She works well with Charles, or Wayne, I'm sorry, and Jim. She's worked with them for the last 8 years, and she's worked with Mr. Hicks for 17. So,
I make a motion that we appoint Nancy Anders as chief judge, Charles Hicks as judge, and James O'Brien as judge.
Second.
Discussion. Call for the vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
the next precinct is Pinehurst B1A. Both parties were in agreement. Bobby McLaughlin as the chief judge, Michael Harrell as the judge, and Lori Bundy as a judge.
I move that we accept these names as presented.
Second. Discussion. Call for the vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carried.
Next precinct is Pinehurst B2. Everybody was in agreement on that one. Mr. Gregory Linville as the chief judge, Mr. Wilson McWilliams as a judge, and Gail Harrell as a judge.
I move that we accept these names as presented.
I second it.
Question? Call for the vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carried.
Next precinct is Pinehurst C. Everybody was in agreement on the first two, James Mannix as the chief judge, Cheryl Fry as a judge. The two differences would be the Republican Party nominated Lorianne Lee as a judge, and the Democratic Party recommended Gerald Carpenter. The only difference I see is Lori Lee has worked 2 more elections than Mr. Carpenter. She's also worked one stop, which gives her a little more experience. But honestly, it comes down to one's worked more than the other. That's the only thing I can say about either one of them.
How many elections has Gerald worked?
2.
Was he a judge at either?
No,
And has she been a judge?
she has been a judge. She was a judge for this past November. We had Mary Bradbury, a longstanding judge at Pinehurst C, undergo some cancer treatment. So she had to, for medical reasons, leave unexpectedly, rather like a week before the election. So,
Then I move for PHC that we approve James Maddox, Chief Judge, Cheryl Fry, Judge, and Lori Lee as Judge.
Second.
Discussion? Bob?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Hi, thanks very much. I appreciate the question and the opportunity to discuss. Also, I understand there's the subtext, which has been, of this meeting, which has been very beneficial, I think, to get the specific experience from Anne Marie and others who have kept records of these nominees. Certainly agree that significant experience is better than no experience. At the same time, the other side of that coin is bringing along folks who are perhaps new to the process but have some experience and are interested in more. So I would be in favor. We certainly will be able to vote on the motion as it's been articulated. I would be in favor myself of Gerard Carpenter as the other regular judge rather than Lori Lee. Thank you.
We have a motion on the floor to vote on.
There's a motion on the floor. Discussion made. Call the vote. No vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed?
Nay.
No.
No.
I make a motion that we appoint James Mannix, Chief Judge, Cheryl Fry, and Gerard Carpenter as judges.
Second it. Motion has been made and second. Get ready to, is there any discussion? Any more discussion? Call to vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Aye. Those opposed?
Nay.
Motion's passed.
the next precinct is the Robbins precinct. Everybody was in agreement with the first two, Vicky Cox as the chief judge, Ruby Manus or Helen Manus as a judge, and Democratic Party had Gail Simmons in Robbins, and Republican Party has recommended Mary Diane Wyatt. So if you recall, we put Gail in DHR because of the personality conflicts. And Diane works very well with the folks in Robbins.
I move that we accept Vicky Cox as chief judge, Ruby Manus and Mary Wyatt as judges.
Second.
So discussion? Bob? Bob?
Once again, looking at the requirements and statutes on approving the precinct nominees by party chair and Gail Simmons fits that requirement.
But Bob, we already appointed her in another precinct.
But we appoint her in another,
Mm-hmm.
Gail into another district? and-
DHR.
Or in DHR, so,
Thank you.
okay.
What we're here for.
I don't have a plan B.
It's okay. So, any more, is there other discussion? Call for the vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries.
The next precinct is Seven Lakes. I think there was only one difference in Seven Lakes. Democratic Party had Ann Spong as the chief judge, Cheryl Koppler as a judge, and Yvonne Merrill as a judge. The Republican recommended Patricia Slotin as a chief judge, Cheryl Koppler as a judge, and Yvonne Merrill as a judge.
Didn't we already approve Ann?
Somewhere else.
Yes,
But I thought,
Ann's in Ben Salem.
she is in Bensalem.
I make a motion that we appoint Patricia Slotkin as chief judge, Cheryl Koppler as judge, and Yvonne Merrill as judge.
Second.
discussion? Call to vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion passed.
The next precinct is South Southern Pines. Everybody was in agreement on the first two. June Chavis as the chief judge, David Owens as a judge. The Republican Party nominated Peggy Capel as a judge. The Democratic Party nominated Al Jean Johnson as a judge. Peggy Capel prefers to work in her home precinct. She's worked 19 elections with June, who has worked 22 elections. Al Jean Johnson, my concern with her is she has some limitations with a vision impairment in driving in the dark. The last time we had her as a judge, she was late and had to leave early so that she wasn't driving in the dark, which is a concern for me. So I also don't feel she's as adequately prepared or qualified as Peggy. She has much more experience, Peggy does, than Al Jean.
Well, then I move that we accept June Chavis as chief judge, David Owens as judge, and Peggy Keppel as judge.
Second that motion. Any discussion? I didn't catch my word. Go ahead. Bob? Oh, I thought you were doing discussion. Okay, call for the vote. Sorry. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. What you guys don't see over here.
That's what
on
we're
the
saying.
screen
We
is
keep
what we're
looking at it.
saying, so I gotta make sure the pen goes up. Sorry.
Okay.
The next precinct is Taylortown. So the first, actually, everybody was in agreement in that one. Sorry. Johnny McNeil as the chief judge, Cynthia Elliott as a judge, and James Koenig as a judge.
I move that we accept these names as presented.
Second.
Discussion. Call for the vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carried.
The next precinct is Bass.
Otherwise, everything's good.
Oh, I'm sorry. The next precinct is Bass. Only one difference between the two parties. Republican Party nominated Sue McKenzie as the chief judge, Sarah Oldham as a judge, and Alexandra Cadell as a judge. The Democratic Party nominated Deborah Barrett as the chief judge, Sarah Oldham as a judge, and Alexandra Cadell as a judge. Deborah Barrett does not want to be reappointed. Her and her husband would like to retire. They like to hang their hats up. They've worked a number of years. he worked in the Robbins precinct, and she typically would work either in DHR or Carthage. So, because she's from Robbins. So, but they both sent their cards back that they would not like to be reappointed.
I make a motion that we appoint Sue McKenzie as chief judge, Sarah Oldham as judge, and Alexandra Cadell as judge.
Second.
Any discussion? Call for the vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries.
Next precinct is West Aberdeen. Both parties were in agreement on the first two. Lori Staples as the chief judge, Kathy Hinton as a judge. The only difference is Republican Party had recommended Janice Cantalou as the judge, and the Democratic Party recommended Roger Williams as a judge. Roger Williams is was the current judge. He has worked 4 elections, 1 as an assistant and 3 as a judge. Janice has worked 7 elections, all as an assistant in Pinehurst A2. I do know Lori, Kathy, and Roger. I've never heard any complaints. I think it was a little rough the first election since Roger was rather new as a judge. I think things have gotten better because I haven't heard any complaints. But again, like I said, it comes down to you've got one who's worked more elections, but only as an assistant, and you've got a gentleman who's worked less elections, but he's worked 3 as a judge.
And since he's in precinct, we
He is in
basically have to
precinct.
say we don't
He is in
consider him
precinct.
qualified. I move that we appoint Lori Staples as judge, chief judge, Kathy Hinton as judge, and Roger Williams as judge.
Second that motion. No, it's not. Call. Discussion. Any discussion? I'm sorry, I just took a blank. Okay, I just had a moment. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed?
Nay.
Aye. Yes. There's three
Okay, wait
days.
a minute.
Yes. Hold up.
We're gonna have to vote on the appointments individually then, because if we don't have a unanimous agreement, we can't appoint Lori. So we're gonna have to talk about this further. Because
Individuals,
she's out of precinct.
Individual.
Would you like to, okay, I'd make a motion that we appoint Lori Staples as chief judge.
I'll second that.
Question. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I make a motion that we appoint Kathy Hinton as a judge.
I'll second that.
All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Somebody has to make a motion. Go to the last person.
Somebody needs to make a motion.
Pardon?
Someone needs to make a.
So for the
motion
third
the last
judge, we
one.
need a motion.
We need a motion for the third judge.
Okay, I'll move that we accept Janice Cantalou as the judge.
Second.
Discussion.
Discussion, anyone?
Yes, I'd like to reiterate, that Roger Williams is in precinct and Janice Cantalou has done some things.
We basically have to decide that Roger is unqualified for some reason before we can bypass him.
I have not heard that he's not qualified from Lori.
Can we call for the vote?
So this has to be unanimous.
And only,
No, the last
it
name.
doesn't have to be unanimous to appoint Roger. It has to be unanimous to appoint Janice
Because she's out of precinct.
because she's out of precinct. And basically, you're saying Roger is
Then
unqualified.
I will withdraw since we're not going to get unanimous for Janice. So I will withdraw Janice.
I didn't understand why you didn't go ahead and nominate him, but that's okay. Go ahead.
So, do I call for the vote again? I'm trying just.
I withdrew my my motion.
So in that case, I move that we accept Roger Williams as the last judge in West Africa.
I second it.
Is there any more discussion? Call for the vote. Those in favor, say aye.
It has to be unanimous, correct?
Yes, that's.
No,
Aye.
it does not have to
No,
be.
no,
Okay, I'm
no.
confused.
I'm sorry,
Precinct.
Marty. This, for the
last
The
name.
last one, because the person was out of precinct, it just,
Okay. Then
I had to understand that too,
Yeah,
so we're on the same. page.
recall for the vote.
Yes. So, back again. Is everybody ready? So we're gonna call for the vote again. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed?
Nay.
The ayes have it. But Roger Williams is the third judge.
The next precinct is Westmore. Both parties were in agreement with Anthony Crisco as the chief judge, Shirley Brewer as a judge, and Brenda Cassidy as a judge.
I move that we accept the names as presented.
Second it. Discussion. Call for the vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion accepted.
The next precinct is West Knollwood. Both parties were in agreement for Mark Evans to be the chief judge, Beverly Bizzle to be a judge, and Diane Lawrence as a judge.
I move that we accept the names as presented.
Can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
Okay.
Do you have any comments about Chief Judge?
I've asked Beverly because she has worked and she does not want it.
Okay.
Beverly
Beverly has much more
She
experience.
does. She has 18 elections, one as an assistant and 17 as a judge. I kind of think she's along the same lines as Catherine Drexel. She likes her judge position and does not really want any added responsibility. That's how she explained it to me. But she makes an excellent judge. Dee, the longstanding Democratic chief judge, always got along with her very well. So, but yes, she was the first person I asked.
Well,
So
Mark's only been a judge once.
he has only been a judge
He's
once.
been a poll worker
He had,
multiple elections.
Yeah,
And
so-
he's excellent. That's my precinct. He's excellent. I was just surprised that Beverly wouldn't want it. And she has much more experience.
she is much more experienced, and I would have liked her to accept it. But like you said, Mark has worked a total of 7 elections, 6 as an assistant, 1 as a judge. But I will tell you, I spoke to Dee Hannah, and she puts her seal of approval on Mark because she knew Beverly wouldn't take it. That precinct they always worked very well together. So, and I think Beverly and Mark will continue to work very well. And Diane is a very good worker. So I think her home precinct is South Southern Pines, but she doesn't mind traveling. We've checked.
Has she been a judge before?
No, this would be her, let's see, this would be her first election as a judge.
I move that we accept the 3 names nominated for West Knollwood.
I'd already made that motion.
She already,
Oh, I'm sorry.
Susan had already made the motion.
I'll second that motion.
Yeah, and then it was discussion too. Yeah, it was a little bit ahead of each other.
Hello.
Call for the vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries.
The next precinct is West End. The Republican Party nominated Jeannie Williams as chief judge, Lydia Kennard as the judge, and Barry Zlotton as a judge. Democratic Party made the recommendation of Pat Zlotton as the chief judge, Lydia as a judge, and Cheryl McDaniel as a judge. We have already nominated or approved Pat as a chief judge in Seven Lakes. The only thing I can say is Cheryl McDaniel. We have taken her off our poll worker list, and we have documentation that she, from the previous chief judge that she worked for, that she is not qualified in the way of she's late, she leaves early, she's watching movies on her phone. She's very hard to get a hold of. She doesn't attend trainings. We've given her multiple chances because when Angela was in this position, Angela told her she was no longer going to be a poll worker. She came back and worked the primary. She told me she had gotten her stuff together, and I was more than happy to give her a second chance because she said, but I had both the chief judge and judge from that precinct come back and say they will not work if she's ever to work in that precinct again. And I believe they're 2 very good workers, Mr. Linville and Mr. McWilliams. They work very well together.
Are you done?
I am done.
And also, when I came, I did my best to also try to work with her as well. She didn't attend the training. I could not get up with her. She did not have a ride. And so even when I came and she asked again about being placed back, and I worked with her myself personally, I could never get up with her. Something would happen. She would never call back to the office. And so it was very difficult to keep up with her and allow her to work within a precinct because she just wasn't reliable even at that time when I tried to work with her.
Can you give me, just for my information?
Yeah.
We do a discussion with her. Sorry. Any more questions in regard to Ms. McDaniel? Bob?
By the way, there hasn't been a motion.
No, I,
That's the information,
okay.
so.
All right. Can you give me some explanation about Jean Williams and Lydia?
Yes. So Jeannie has worked 21 elections, 21 as a chief judge. And I will tell you, the number of elections that I'm telling you, that's only what I can find electronically. Unfortunately, I don't have the time to go back in all the books for every year before that, the paper books. So Jeannie has worked 21 elections, 21 as a chief judge in West End. Lydia has worked 7 elections, 3 as an assistant, 4 as a judge. I will add that Jeannie is a member of that congregation. which, as we all know, churches are not required to allow us to use their facility. So Jeannie has always been our contact, and the church is more than happy to let us use their facility because Jeannie helps us with that. I feel as if Jeannie was not a judge or a chief judge, I don't know that the church would allow us to use it. I think Jeannie uses her push to get that facility. And honestly, it's a very nice facility. It's big. There's plenty of parking. And I will tell you, I don't know that there's any other facility in West End that would accommodate the voting. Like, there's not very many places in West End. So it is a very nice location, and they're nice enough to let us use it. So, but Jeannie, like I said, I don't ever have to worry about reliability, picking up her stuff, attending trainings, or anything like that. Barry, he's a great poll worker. He's been a judge. He's worked 15 elections for us, 3 as an assistant, 12 as a judge, and he was also a poll worker in Massachusetts for 15 years prior to coming down here. So Barry's more than qualified. He also works one stop with us. So I have no qualms about Barry either. He's more than qualified.
I make a motion that we appoint Jean Ann Williams, Lydia Kennard, and Barry Slotkin as listed on the Republican.
Second.
There's discussion, Bob?
Thank you. Appreciate all the input that we've had on this particular precinct. I was about to make almost that recommendation with this board, actually a joint, a combined slate of the Republican and Democrat initial suggestion, which would be Jeannie Williams as the chief judge, Lydia Kennard as the judge. They are both in precinct and essentially required. For the other judge, third position, I am also persuaded that Cheryl McDaniel would not be a good choice. However, there is another Democrat whom we discussed earlier, Sarah Conti, who has some favorable comments. She was not approved for that previous precinct. But the proposal that I would have, again, and I'm afraid because both Barry and Sarah would be out of precinct and therefore would require unanimous confirmation either way. So, as a substitute amendment, I request that we consider just Jeannie Williams and Lydia Conrad as chief judge and judge. They're both in precinct, both essentially required. We consider them separately, and then because it would require a unanimous vote for either Barry or Cheryl for the third position, then we would have a second motion and discussion for that third position in this precinct.
Just a correction, Bob, Jeannie is out of precinct.
Okay. Thank you. I didn't. All right. That's a correction. Thanks. In that instance, maybe what we need to do is consider all of them individually. That's it. I'm making it's a contribution to the discussion. We ran into this issue before. Now that we've got 2 people, both Jeannie Williams and Barry Slotkin, who are out of precinct, if we're considering these as a slate, then it would require unanimous Is that correct? Do I understand it that way?
For those two.
Just for those two.
I have a question, please.
That's why I said if you did it as a slate, then it would have to be unanimous. Otherwise, we would have to separate it out as we did before.
Susan?
Because his wife is working in another precinct, if we don't, and I don't know these people, so I don't have dog in that fight. But if his wife is not working, sometimes a husband and a wife both like to make that commitment and give their day and their time for the elections because the other one is doing it. So I'm just putting out there that if we turn down Barry, Pat may say, I'm not gonna do this.
He can still be a poll worker, he just won't be a judge. And he
I'm
can
just
still be a poll
bringing
worker
that
out
up.
of precinct. That's the board, the staff appoints them.
Just bringing that up.
So whoever we appoint right now, these people are going to have to be unanimous, or else we have to come up with a whole new person.
Everyone but Lydia has to, in this precinct, has to be unanimous, because Lydia's in precinct.
It sounds like we're not going to get unanimous for either one of these, Cheryl McDaniel and Barry Zlotton. So do we have another individual that might get unanimous, that might be out of precinct, or do we have anybody in precinct that would just need a majority?
I think Bob mentioned Sarah Conley.
Bob mentioned Sarah Conti,
Right.
who was not in there. But
Still have to-
she's still out of precinct too, so we still have to vote on her individually. But we do have a motion on the floor, don't we, and a second? Isn't that correct? I
The
think,
current,
but we need,
whoever made the initial motion, will make the mistake.
I do too.
you made,
It was not.
Holly made the motion, it was seconded, and then we had the discussion. And the discussion is that Lydia Kennard is okay because she's in precinct, am I correct? And then we have to vote on Jeannie Williams and Barry, I can't pronounce his last name, Zlotman, thank you, and Sarah Conti, because that was the other suggested person because they're out of precinct. But we have to get rid of this first motion. No, we don't.
We don't have to get rid of it. I think we need
Amend it?
to vote on it.
Okay,
What are we voting on?
that's what I'm trying to figure out.
Jeannie Williams, Lydia Kennard, and Barry Zlotton.
Jeannie Williams, Lydia Kennard, and Barry Zlotman is what we're voting on, correct?
Yes.
Unless Holly withdraws her original motion and we start over, sort of one at a time. And I'm, having brought up the issue, and had enough discussion and, facing the possibility of, as Marty suggested, when we get down to, I think could all probably agree on Jeannie Williams. It looks like we can, who is out of precinct, looks like we can all agree on Lydia Kennard. For the third one, we have two people who are out of precinct. Both of them would require unanimity. And in the interest of avoiding a knockdown, drag-out fight at this hour of the day, I will just be content to having expressed my observations on this issue and to continue to, you can infer from that what you will, but I would be happy to go ahead with a vote on Holly's original motion and see what happens.
I'd like to amend my motion.
What Holly has said, she would like to amend her motion.
I amend my motion to approve Jeannie Williams as chief judge, Lydia Kennard as a judge. And that's it for this motion.
I'll second that.
Okay, is there any more discussion? I just want to make, your hand is up, Bob, that's why I'm
I'm
asking.
sorry.
It's okay. Call for the vote. All those in favor, say aye, please.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed? That first motion passes. So the chief judge is Jeannie Williams with Lydia Kennard as one of the judges. Now we need a third judge, which we're looking at.
I'd like to ask Anne Marie for input. Anne Marie, can you give us a comparison of the experience of Barry Slotkin and Sarah Conti?
I can. So Barry he's worked 15 elections here, 3 as an assistant, 12 as a judge. Prior to coming to North Carolina, he worked as a poll worker in Massachusetts for 15 years. Sarah Conti was Eastwood. Sarah Conti, let me just make sure. Eastwood. She has worked 4 elections, 4 as an assistant, 1 as a judge.
For as a what?
As a judge, 4 as an assistant,
What is it?
just a
Regular.
yes,
A
just
poll worker.
mhm,
Okay.
and then 1 as a judge. I would probably say what Susan, Barry, and Pat are husband and wife, and I'll be honest with you, I feel, I don't know this for sure though, but I completely understand your comment. Like, they like to work together and they volunteer, their time the same day. And if one doesn't, and I know what you're saying, Holly. So, you know what I'm saying? He would still work as a poll worker, but not as a judge. I sometimes think we've had instances where people have felt that it's a demotion, and that I've had a lady, I can't get her to return my phone calls, and she was a very good poll worker. And Holly, in your precinct, Grace Anderson, she won't return a phone call, unfortunately, because she was a good worker. I do think they take it very seriously, and they feel as if it's a demotion.
Just as a point of discussion, I know we aren't really discussing, but we are. Looking at the list as a whole, I mean, we've had very few disagreements. But one of the problems is finding experienced poll workers and giving them the experience as a judge. And if we don't allow these people to get that experience, their names can come up every time it's time to appoint, and you still don't have those people to pull from to kind of get the balance between our 2 major political parties that is desirable. So I'll just throw that out there. I think that's probably what Bob's thinking about when he brings up Sarah.
So with that being said, I need a motion from the floor for the third person, for a third judge. And this does not have to be unanimous, because we're voting on that, right?
Does have to be
It
unanimous.
does has to be unanimous, okay.
I don't know if it helps anybody, but the voter registration totals for our county,
We know what
We
that
just
is.
go on.
yeah. I mean, and that doesn't mean
the judges should
No,
be
but I will
aligned
tell
with
you-
the number of registrants.
no, but it hinders being able to find
Sure.
a good number of them. And that's my only concern. When you look at the number of registered Republicans, Democrats, and unaffiliated, it's extremely hard to make it as completely even. It's very hard. Okay. And I know we all, and for years, this office has tried its best to represent this county as evenly as possible. So,
I nominate Gary Slaughter for the next judge.
Second.
Bob, your hand is up. There's discussion.
It was, I was gonna make a different nomination, but, Susan has done so we have something to discuss. And it's been seconded.
You do or do not have something to discuss? I'm sorry, it's already been discussed?
I just second the motion
Yeah.
also. I don't think there's been any discussion.
Okay, then since I brought up Sarah Conti, who was favorably discussed previously, that I think that she should be considered. That's, they give an indication of how I'm gonna vote on this, but we'll just have to see what happens. Susan has a motion on the floor, and so I would welcome comments from other members of the board.
Guess we vote.
I guess we can go ahead. Holly, did you have any more comments? I'm just making sure.
I don't know, is anybody keeping count of the number of Democrats versus Republicans that we've appointed? Does anybody have that count?
I don't keep track.
Just as a point of reference.
20 Democrats have been appointed.
When does this have to be?
My only concern is the question that you had brought up, is that the husband and wife, they work together. I'm just gonna put
And I
this out.
don't know that that
I
would be the case.
know. I'm just saying, the consequence of all of this may be this, and it may or may not be. He becomes a poll worker, another person becomes a judge. They decide to pull out both of them and not work at all. So with that being said, where do we go from there to find the replacements for those two persons? That's my concern right now.
Could you not find another replacement for Barry? Yes. Could you find another one for Pat? No. I can honestly tell you that.
She's the best chief judge I've ever worked with.
She really is.
Okay.
She really is. I mean, she
She
runs that precinct like nobody's business. And that is a huge precinct, and there is always a line. And those folks stay calm, cool, and collected. I mean, she has probably 5 check-in computers, 2 help desks, and normally 2 people doing curbside. So no, I don't think you could replace her. Could you replace him? Yes.
Miss Susan.
In my years of experience, and I'm not gonna say how many years, but in my years of experience, I have seen it over and over, where a husband and a wife both go to the polls and both go to work. And when one of them says that's it, the other one's right behind. I'm just saying.
They did do that last year when they recommended that Pat only be a judge in Seven Lakes, right? In 21, she was not going to work, and he would not work if she wasn't the chief judge.
And I didn't even know that.
Now, would she do the same for him? I don't know. I'm just saying. I mean,
That's true.
you know what I'm saying? I mean, he would do it for her. Now, whether or not, I don't have confirmation that she.
Well, and the other thing is, having been an assistant, a judge, and a chief judge, it would be hard after having been a judge for years to be relegated to just a poll worker. It would be a blow.
I agree. I agree with you, Holly, and I think I know. Did you work with Grace over there? And
Yes.
and she took it as a blow.
Mhm.
She really did, and I hated losing her, and so did Dee. Dee missed her and was not happy with us for years, and she reminded us of that every election.
And I don't, there's no understanding by the poll workers, maybe some of the judges know it, of this process
No,
that determines who the judges are.
no, they don't. And they don't.
And so when people get changed, they
Yeah,
don't understand.
They don't understand it, and they take it personally.
Mhm.
As many times as I've tried to tell them not to take it personally and that it wasn't that you were doing a bad job, they still take it personally. Because I tried to tell Grace that and she wouldn't listen. And that's fine. I will tell you I do think all of these workers on both recommendation lists, we make sure, and Holly and Tony know this, that you have to check your politics at the door. So when it comes to how many D's, how many R's, or how many U's are in a precinct, I don't mind having 2 D's, I don't mind having 2 R's, and I don't mind having 2 U's, because I know every single one of these judges and chief judges on both the recommendations would serve their precincts equally. I have faith in each and every one of them. So, and we kind of beat that into your head a little in the trainings that you have to be able to check your politics at the door. So,
Bob, go ahead.
Final comment, and this may bring us to a successful vote. I appreciate the opportunity to voice my opinion, since I had considered moving that Sarah Conti be included in this slate. I didn't quite get there because of the diligence of Susan Adams, which I appreciate. It's clear this is a classic example of where a particular set of ideals, whether it has to do with party balance or with one's duty to one's party and to the voters of Moore County and to successful elections, has to take into consideration these personal concerns that have been brought up, other commitments, husband and wife relationships, and all sorts of realities, numbers of registered members of various parties in a given precinct. All of these have to be jumbled into the mix. I think I am encouraged, and I hope that will continue to be reiterated. Anne Marie's notion of checking one's politics at the door, that will be reiterated in training. And having said that, I've said my piece, and I appreciate all the input, and I think it's time for a vote. Unless anybody else has a discussion on this last motion. Thank you.
And to repeat that motion, just so everybody's on the same page.
I nominate Barry Lawton to be a judge in this precinct.
And I already seconded it.
Bob, your hand is up again.
We
discussed. Call for the vote, please. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those, aye. Those opposed? Motion passes. Okay, I'd like to thank everybody for their patience during this time of appointing all the precinct officials. I think we all were very informed, but we do have one other thing left on the agenda to discuss, and that is counting of the absentee ballots, the time resolution prior to 5 p.m. Tawana can address that for us.
So according to the general statute, when it comes to counting the absentee ballots, the general statute sets that time at 5 o'clock. Normally what we do as the office, we do it early. You can do it between 2 and 5. This way it gives the board an opportunity to see the process, to kind of conduct all the business right within the business time frame. I know that this is going to be a low election for absentees. However, when it comes to the presidential election, it is a possibility of trying to count I'm just going to ask Carrie one quick question because this is her line of expertise, if you don't mind.
No, go ahead.
Carrie, in 20, well, no, I'm not doing 2020, because that was insane. Normally, because there's 3 weeks before your first absentee meeting, normally what is the amount of absentees you would receive before your first
For
absentee
that
meeting?
first meeting,
Yes.
I would say on average, 800 to 1,000.
Okay, so usually in a regular election, you can normally get 800 to 1,000 absentees that you have to process within that time frame, or if you split it up, you have to have everything processed before the next absentee meeting. So, and I have to notate the time of the board meeting, not only into our system, but also to the general public. So I just needed to know what time would be good for the board to meet to conduct the absentee meeting absentee by mail meeting. I mean, you can do it by 5 o'clock. I'm just going to say, like I said, just kind of get you into the routine of getting in early, getting it done, and being out by 5. Or if you choose to do it by 5, depending on if there's some issues, we're going to be here for a minute. So it's up to the board for what time they will feel comfortable in coming and doing it.
Is this the counting of absentees that's going to take place on Tuesdays?
Yes, ma'am. Mhm, yes.
Thank you.
So those will either be military that come in or anything that comes in by mail. I prefer on Tuesdays. But what time to time?
So we need a motion or something for this,
Yes, I do. I need that in.
to,
What time?
to do 2 o'clock, or do we specify a time?
You can do. Well, what time do you want?
You said we can do them as early as 2 o'clock,
Yes,
correct?
yes, sir.
Then I move that we do 2 o'clock for our absentee ballots on the Tuesdays.
Second.
Discussion? Bob?
Underway. We have a quick internal poll of the board members about the availability or convenience of meeting as early as 2 o'clock. And I'll go ahead and say that would be fine for me on Tuesdays.
On Tuesdays. 2 o'clock is fine.
We're all good.
We're all good.
We're all good.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Okay. So
Good night.
there was a motion. So,
Yes.
Okay.
There was a motion from Mr. Marty
I second it.
and yes, Ms. Susan seconded that motion already.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Third.
The question was already addressed. Therefore, I need to call the vote. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. All right, thank you.
Well, that, put together later.
Okay.
Yes, and yes, that charge, everything's done.
I move for adjournment.
Pardon me?
I move that we adjourn.
Second that motion. Meeting adjourned.
I know, it's tomorrow, because I've got to be late. I've got to go into the office.
Appreciate it. Thank you.